I've already talked about each of the holidays all together in one video, but I wanted to dive a little bit more into Halloween, or the many names of it. You could say All Hallows Eve, you could say death celebration, you could say harvest celebration, you could say the day of the harvest, you could say Samhain, or some people think it's pronounced Samhain, but it's Samhain. And we could go into all the different things about history. But what I've been showing everybody with the numbers and letters is what actually explains why, no matter where you are in the world, this is one big story being told, and it applies to everything. 1031 is the J, and then since 31 is past 26, you'd break it down into C in the 10th spot, 1 or A in the 1 spot. So you'd have 3-1, 3 intense, the unseen concept, intense, active on 31. And 10 is the junction of. So it's the junction of unseen concepts activated. That's why it's All Hallows Eve. It actually comes from All Saints Day, which used to be on 5/13, and they moved it to the end of 10/31. Is it just a coincidence that you have 5 and then 1-3? And then when you add 2 5s together by putting 2 E's together, because a May is 5, and you'll see what I mean, but I'm talking this, so I'd have to show you with symbols. But you have 5/13 for All Saints Day, and then you have 10, which is 2 5s, 31, which is the opposite of 13, which is the day that we celebrate death. No, because 5/13 is the bottom line manifestation, 5 being E and 13 being M, or the bottom line of active concept, the active unseen. And then the other way around, you say it's the junction of coming into tense at 1031. It's junction of the unseen intense active. So that's why people don't understand that. Why I'm breaking that down is no matter what you think you're doing, this is what's happening. We are supposed to be celebrating or taking in our harvest because this is where the land stops giving us our crops. People used to leave out some of their crops to keep away the animals, or at times when it was other tribes or other beings or goblins or ghouls that they believed them to be, and they were. Just they're all different times and all different time frames, but this goes throughout everything. The the junction of the unseen concepts active is 1031. It's with the whole idea of carving the pumpkins and all that stuff is jack-o'-lanterns is to mean the jack of the light. And that's all it means. It could be the one carrying around as a lantern, or it's supposed to say that everything is dying off. It's taking away the light. It's the night that you celebrate that. But there's historic stories behind all of them, and people play those parts in a giant, universal, worldly play. And I'm telling you how the words play into it. And every word of any of those stories will exactly break down into what I'm telling you. So when I tell you that the reason I know this is because I've done this billions of times, and I've celebrated all of those different celebrations. I've seen witches burnt. I've been burnt. I've done all these things. And because nobody wants to take that as possible, they don't want to listen to how I know this stuff. This stuff is something that you learn from the other side beyond this, where scientists and even the most well-paid people this day and age have no clue. They're just doing research of historic stuff, and they're allowed to do that. But they'll see how much it really doesn't matter when it comes down to it at the end. But nobody wants to really think about that until it comes to the end. But you're in it right now, always. So why wait until the end to figure out why you're here? And then you can do awesome things for the world instead of give out candy, which is a way to poison yourself. And you're bringing in when you hallow means, oh, hallow be thy name, means make holy or to make sacred. To wean from that, to EEN, see EE makes 10. Then you have a 31. And it's like that whole EE is the bottom line expression upon itself, which you put that together in a symbol, it would be J. It would be the junction of whatever's identified. Because EE is like when you break it apart and it's in vowel form, because we're taking away from this bottom thing and making it N, nothing, and no, whatever this notion is. It's to pluralize the weaning from the hallow. I mean, like we're taking away from the holy. So what we're really doing on that day by giving out candy and doing all that stuff is we're killing ourselves off. We're supposed to be harvesting stuff and valuing life and seeing what we've done with nature, but now everyone lives in either suburbs or little like community villages or cul-de-sacs or buildings, and nobody really thinks about the fact that that's what those things actually mean. And in nature, they mean that. So if you're poisoning yourself as a celebration for something, that's something that was Americanized through Hollywood. I mean, it's people don't understand these things are supposed to be sacred, meaningful times. And when you understand what they are, and someone says, you don't celebrate Halloween, you're no fun. I'm like, no, I know what it actually is in nature. I have, in so many different ways, I've seen so many different depictions of why it is this, and it all explains it with the math. And it's fun. It's so amazing to understand this stuff that I'm talking about. But since everybody's caught up poisoning themselves and being happy about it, then they're not going to want to understand that there is something actually happening here. And somebody actually can tell them. And they love them enough to say it. And sometimes they may get frustrated because, hey, you would too if you were in the condition of somebody who knows all this crazy, amazing stuff when everybody's just stuck on what's being projected to them outside. So, anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. Halloween isn't necessarily a bad time if you are celebrating what it really is. Time for you to harvest. If you're just dressing up like monsters and making that a common view in everybody's mind, just lay blood and gore and celebrating the dead. We're not supposed to celebrate the dead. This is one of the most evil days because people use this doorway of spirituality because the word has everything to do with what I'm talking about. 1031 is the junction of the unseen concept. So when Halloween comes, people use that day as the doorway to bring in negative energy. That's why other people who know about that use that day to celebrate the loss of a loved one. And then there's other people in other cultures on November 2nd, which is 11/2, the kinetic base, where they dance around like dead people because it's kinetic. Anything with K is of the nature of dark when it starts with it. Just think of the word dark as D, to and from, active reference, kinetic. Black, it was D, was already on the other side of B. So we started with the D. We reversed it right there. So we didn't have to worry about then B going base as it lies, activated unseen concept. So at D, we're already to and from the active reference concept, or kinetic. And the reference of active kinetic is darkness, because it's active kinetic. It doesn't have anything yet. So like in that way, it doesn't necessarily mean like black darkness. It just means from nothing, from nowhere, kinetic. So when I say that, like base as it lie, activating the unseen kinetic, and then to and from active reference kinetic, like it's one of those kind of things where when you understand, when you start getting into all the words that we've been using, it matters so much and people just don't know it. So I'm trying to teach them because I care and I must. So I'm going to leave it at that. I went down a little extra on the back there, breaking down a couple of extra words, but I love you and peace. The last thing I want to do is prove myself right. As, me, I'm Dan, and I'm right about what I'm talking about. The point that I'm trying to show you is that this is how things work, so that you understand that there's such a deeper, more subtle thing going on in the world. So when I've been breaking down all these words, and I recently did Halloween, I want people to understand that there are different languages and different traditions where this comes from. Like I say on the one video, Samhain, because instead of saying Samhain, how some people say, it was once spelled Samhuinn. See how there's two N's, which if they were actually joined, it would be a W upside down, and how there's an M, which is a W upside down. But if you look at the word Sowen, Sowen, it actually means to distress or to torment, or something along the lines of when you're sowing your seeds. Now you're sowing, you're distressing the ground. You're not necessarily tormenting it, but you're terrain mounting. You're trying to put something into it. So when you understand what that means as it's spelled, S-O plural, expressed notion. Now you're putting something into something. Now when you say Samhain, or when it's spelled as if it would be pronounced Samhain or Samhain, like Samhain is to subject the active manifestation. Here, active identified notion, like rain with an H. You're trying to subject to activate a manifestation here. Active identified notion. So you're calling in energy. So instead of sowing, like sowing seeds, the reason it's pronounced that way is because the word is doing a certain thing and the spelling is actually pronouncing it and saying that it's singular, intense. It's not plural, it's intense. It's SAM, which is active unseen concept, 13. So it's literally the word subjecting active manifestation, here active identified notion, or subject active manifestation, here underlying identified notion upon itself. See how those are spelled differently, but they mean the same thing, just because one is UINN and one is just AIN. It's not hard to understand, but they're different dialects which say it differently. That's why in the video I say Samhain instead of Samhain, because it was pronounced differently at different times. And it sounds weird for people to say all these different words differently, but back when people were talking about, Prometheus and the great, Dicalanestes, how people had like all these kind of weird names. I'm not trying to use any actual names to put anybody down, but just how we have all these huge names. People didn't think it was weird then, and they didn't think the way they talked was weird then. And right now, words are becoming more symmetric, and we're understanding in a conscious way how to speak in a more symmetric fashion. I mean, it's not, there are no other words for it to say it in a better way. Like, we are speaking symmetrically. So if you actually know why it's pronounced Samhain, but spelled that way, is because they're trying to call in energy. Instead of trying to plant seeds in the ground, they're trying to pull seeds out of the air, basically. It's basically calling in energy. Or you're subjecting the active manifestation, here, active identified notion. That's like active identified things going back into nature. It's going from Sam. Everything is not the same anymore. It's individualizing and it's dying off. So, I mean, if you properly celebrated it, sure, it's great that it's spelled that way. But people are actually celebrating death and eating candy. Like, do you think eating candy makes sense? Do you think giving a bunch of little kids candy that poisons them happily and getting them to look forward to it, because that's what the TV does, makes you look forward to these holidays so you can poison yourself so that you can go right along with it, while people actually don't know what the hidden meaning behind all this stuff really is, and they're being used to call in energy that they shouldn't allow because it's covered. Say you have 15 fun houses with somebody with a little spook shack, then you have somebody with one that's not necessarily just for a spook. It's actually really scary, and they're actually doing crazy stuff. Well, the more and more and more we allow this to be a normal thing, the more those kind of things can happen or be in the midst of those. And the more and more it happens, more of them will actually be the negative kind, because people are bringing that energy into themselves and not even knowing it. This usually happens over 100 years and 100-year periods, but it's happening so fast this day and age. It's frightening from a human perspective, but I've seen it. And I know that's why I keep saying that I have to keep teaching this stuff, because I know how to prevent it. And I do. And it's literally the simplest thing as stopping all the dumb shit. And saying that makes people offended. But of course, if you want things to go better and you want things to work in a cooperative, intelligent way, you stop doing all the dumb shit, right? Well, why is it hard for adults to be like, well, I guess I've been doing dumb shit and I got to stop? Because nobody wants to face themselves. I've done that for long enough. And it's to the point where nobody's going to tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about. And they couldn't show themselves that I don't know what I'm talking about. If they looked into what I'm saying, there might be a little fumble here and there on a word because I get emotional or passionate about what I'm saying. but it's because I give a damn and I love you guys. That's why. So I'm going to leave it at that, Till next time. Peace. Hello. I'm going to jump into a video that's probably all over the place because I have older recordings that dive into Halloween and Samhain and Samhain, how it's spelled. But I want to attempt to go into each little piece a little more in detail because there's so much background to everybody's history and their stories. I mean, there's billions of different stories and all kinds of cultural celebrations, all kinds of traditions. And I want to show you when I say that everything is this one big story, it couldn't be said more exact. I mean, everything literally is one big story. And we see this when we leave. And the idea of getting too involved into your cultural background, your ancestral background, your historic background, those things, you got to understand when you die, and you do die. And in the spirit of Halloween, this is the day where things are hollowing out. All Halloween, hallow, things that are sacred, wean, they start to die. The act is over at the end of October. And it's like literally when you harvest, the here active references vitally expressed subject plus, you bring in the things that have grown. That's what this whole season is about. Now we want to have fun, so we give it all kinds of fun names. Now, it's not just a coincidence that Halloween and Hollywood are the same. Notice that Hollywood is a D, Halloween is, well, it's a W, two O's, and a D. Holly. Then we have Hallo. Then we have Wood, and then Ween. Two E's, and then an N, which is 1-4, intense. So it's literally Ween, active to and from dia, N. So then when you have Hollywood, which I'm bringing that up because they're all spells. Hollywood is a place that here, ongoing, between here, vitally identified, plural, ongoing upon itself, to and from, where you're going to see holograms, or where you're going to wholly viewed or see Holly, like here ongoing as it lie between two L's, vitally identified, viewed, but you'd say would. See what I mean? Like these words, there's many translations to the same thing, but they resonate because that's what sounds are. Depictions come into our ears and our eyes and our senses, and we just learn them based on our background, on our historical stuff. So whether there's all these words like haunting, haint, hant, ghost, ghoul. I mean, I could go into breaking down every single one of these words. And if anybody wants me to, then make a list of words you want me to break down and go deeper into. But my whole point here is to show you that independent of whatever story you get lost in, whatever way you want to celebrate this day, there are things that come from it through nature, whether we understand it or not. And I'm not bad-mouthing or trying to tell you not to do certain things. Make your own treats. Make something out of something that you grew and sweeten it with something that's naturally sweet. Don't go out and get poison candy and hand it out to the kids and think you're being nice. A lot of people know that if you want to just put the word Halloween and think of the things that are Halloween or things that are hollowing out, you could just think of, if you're giving kids candy, you're killing them a little. They may, of course, their body's going to heal and everything's going to be okay, but why keep escorting that process of giving them something unhealthy? Now, I want to jump into a few words because the whole point of this day that people should understand is it's everything that's going on in the world is nature, and we're here trying to look out and do what we want with it. And because we number days, you can learn about Halloween on any day, but on 10/31 is the day we celebrate that. On each separate day, we do different things based on that day. And most people are busy in their everyday schedule, not realizing that nature's always gone in this pattern until we wake up and do something different, or celebrate it, or make a cultural, festivity in a different way. And our ways right now are inhumane. Like people that deep down, okay, if you set up a horror shop where you're pretending to hack off limbs and be gory and that kind of stuff, it's reflecting what's in your mind. It's reflecting what's in you. And I understand that the world outside is cruel and sometimes you want to let it out. Some people do it for that reason. But if we weren't always continuously put into these scenarios where we have to deal with stress that other people put on us, we wouldn't have all these inner demons that need to come out on Devil's Night. So I want to go into the word Samhain, and I want to show you more, because I know on those videos from the last couple of years that I put together, there is so much more to try to explain out of that. Now, this being spelled Samhain and looking like Samhain, think of when, now it's pronounced like this. Samhain or Samhain. So when you say this, you understand that this is plural. When you sow seeds, you are sowing, S-O-W-I-N-G, you are subject, less than the thing, ongoing, plural. And then that seed is the less than the thing expressed upon itself, to and from, seed. So it will become a tree, if it's a tree seed, or a plant, or whatever plant it is from that seed. The S is the less than the plus, because it's not saying the name of the thing, it's a something seed. Now on sowing, like here we go, it's a singular thing, because A and M, we're manifesting from something. We're trying to subject, or let's just say the words are spirits or anything that's out there that's less than a thing. Plus A becomes T here. So we're adding a manifestation here, activated, identified, out of notion or nature, or out of the N, the active to and from. So every time we have that, we can translate it hundreds of thousands of ways. But when you're trying to call in something from outward, something that's here, active, identified nature, you don't sew, put it together like a S-E-W when you sew something with this needle and thread, and you don't sew like you're ongoing pluralizing, putting seeds in the ground to grow. You're literally subjecting the activation of manifestation, and M is also 13, the AC, the active, unseen concept or constant to whatever thing. Here, activating identified notion. So you're trying to pull in or sew in a subject that is active, manifested, here, active, identified nature. Like, so if you understand all these older celebrations in past folklore and tales and all these kind of things, they did things differently because the way we see them is less civilized. They were where they are in time then. This will all explain through the years, the months, the days, the names. It's crazy. But trying to pick pieces out and show you what I mean, when summer comes to an end, now we would be plural. And when we're summer, we're S-U-M-M-E-R. Subject, underlying, or units manifested upon themselves from the other side, because M and M is Z. And S plus U is past 26, so you just use S. U is past 26, so you just use U. Or you can say S as AI19, or U as 2121AB. And then you can go into M as AC, M as AC. You can do all that, because there are different translations, and they all make the same sense, because I'm showing you and telling you what letters, numbers, and symbols mean. Not just what the words translated from that dialect and this dialect, and it loosely compares. Every way it's spelled happens. Magic is happening every moment all around us, whether we are in tune with it or not. I just happen to be in tune with it all the time. And that doesn't mean that I don't see it at all times, unless I'm doing something and trying to interact with people. I watch people just allowing the world to push them around because they don't know who they are. Allowing other people, allowing false ideas of, this is my responsibility, my duty, I got to do this. I signed up for this silly job that I do. Of course, we're all in the middle of tons of different scenarios where we're doing that. But none of it is as important as truly understanding what you're here for. Underneath all this stuff is to understand the spirituality and the nature of things. And most of us never get a chance to do that because we're busy doing everything else. So think of summer coming to an end. We have subject active that is manifested. Here activates the identified nothing or notion, because N, if something starts with an N, it's just something that's here. It's N. It's enabled. En, you could say En is to express that notion. N by itself is just the notion, or the now, or the nature. So, and then when you break it into AD, it makes more sense because it's active and it's to and from. So it's like something that's happening now, at this moment, or at this notion, or in this nature. You know what I mean? So I'm trying so hard to put this into the correct words, and I love you, so bear with me. And if you've got the patience, you will learn so much. And if you don't, that's fine. Keep putting candy in yourself and keep dressing up like ghosts and goblins and making that just a normalized thing, and teaching your kids to, all these funny stories that are just make-believe and you don't even know where they come from. All the historic stuff, you could get lost studying this stuff forever. Look into all the different historical backgrounds. But this applies to all of them, what I'm saying. So not only if we go into like things like ghost, the generated here, ongoing subject, which is less than a thing, plus, now we're saying it's less than a thing, but we're adding that idea of a generated here, ongoing subject, plus, okay? Now we say any other word. We'll go into any other words, but I'm trying to stay on the Halloween topic here. When we say trick or treat, now we think that means dressing up and going around, trick or treat, treat me or I'll trick you. At the same time, do you know that underneath it all, by not just the government and not just the system, there are people that own the system. There are beings who own the system and have created these systems and operate it with intention and reasons why they do all this stuff. The reason promoted candy, knowing that candy is bad for you, and everyone's like, oh, but I like it. That's your addiction. Just as bad as a drug, but it may not be as bad for your body, or may not seem to appear to be as bad for you because you don't lose control or get all mushed out. At the same time, you're allowing yourself to truly give into a habit which you know is not good for you because, hey, let's celebrate it. But then we celebrate every day. We're the kind of people who want to celebrate every day. Making every day holy or making every day good is not saying give in to all your temptations and just enjoy yourself. That's what's being pushed on people. I know this was more supposed to be about Halloween, but I'll put this together with the other ones and put them together like throughout the years. And I just want you guys to know that what we're doing here is always magic. We're always casting spells. And today happens to be Halloween Day of 2023. So, like, and the ones that I found from before, from past recordings, so they may say some of the same things, but whatever. Like, these things are happening to all of us, and we're getting stuck in our ideas. Now, what I said earlier is when you die, which you do die, you aren't a race. You aren't a cultural background. You have no actual history because you're not coming from just one point looking at what your history is or that history is. There's only one story happening, and it's being performed and acted out and being presented to us through these letters, symbols, and motions that I'm trying to show you with the spin and the addition and the placement of letters. It literally is what's happening. And people want to say, no, it's not. And those same people, their name will express why they're doing what they're doing and in their place. And it's not because I want to be some smart ass. It's because the creation itself, God, the universe, is speaking through me. And I would never want to shirk that or push that off. But I want to at least use the ability that I have to be on the same human level as everybody else, going through the same problems, to show you that together we can come out of this, because one can't. We're so controlled now by a mass group that one can't just decide, I'm going to get away from all this and just go off my own. No, people will come and get you. You're under strict regards and strict restrictions to follow these rules. And if you could understand, those are all ridiculous. Just even making up fake days to celebrate. Every day is a beautiful day. Every day is a holy day or a holiday. But Halloween is literally not, okay, think about this. Halloween is one of the favorites of most people, but it's not noticed or regarded as a holiday where you get off work or it's celebrated as a government holiday, because believe it or not, those people that do own the governments and that do own the systems, this is their high holy day, because this is just like on the opposite end of the other side of the year where they start into everything with the whole, May Day and all these celebrations. We can go into those in different videos, and I have. But this is at the end where things are dying off. And while things are dying off, there are literally in the world doorways between new life being brought in and the old life of this season being gone out. Because what's going to happen when these things die off? They're leaving their DNA memory, their plant memory, their seeds, their pollens, all this different stuff that they leave in nature to tell their story for next year to come back. So what we do every year is keep telling stories over and over. And throughout our lifetimes and our histories, we keep telling these same stories over and over and over. And through our religions, we keep reading these same stories over and over and over. And people follow them because they want to be right or they want to have control. And once you see this on a bigger spectrum than you have before, you'll understand that learning the simplicity of relaxing, breathing in and being with what is in this moment is more important than just enjoying yourself and going out and having a good time, because that's affecting not only you, but the world around you and the environment. So I think I included enough in those videos. I haven't seen them in a while. I'm going to look through them and I'm going to try to put them together for you. But deep down, if I may not word this as perfectly as I'd like to, so that you can understand that I'm here to save as many as I can, and not just in this oh, save me, hero, in a true deep sense. You can still get hurt. You will still physically and emotionally feel pain, but that's part of it. You have to. You have to. You can't avoid it. You can try to avoid it. All you're going to do during that time is just have a lesser vibration of pain and struggle and suffering because you're just bored or unhappy or depressed. Get over that, and you can. I will help you. And there's many out there who can. And if we all come together, we can learn from each other all these different things, teach each other all these different trades. So I'm going to try to leave it at that because I didn't really go too deep into Halloween. Because like I said, I'll put these other videos together. I love you guys. And no matter what you do, treat yourself good. Treat others good. The golden rule, treat others as you would want someone to treat you. Do unto others as you would have done unto you. Sorry. But at the same time, also don't do anything to anybody else that you wouldn't want done to yourself, including plants, animals, the world around you. Use your mind because you have it. It's a gift. So, till next time, peace. God bless.